Mr. Speaker, I thank the gentleman from Virginia for yielding, for his leadership on immigration issues, and especially want to thank my colleague and friend, Congressman Yoho, for bringing forward this important piece of legislation, which just goes back and reestablishes the rule of law, Mr. Speaker. You've got a president who's consistently gone out time and time again and shown disregard for the Constitution and the rule of law of this nation. We just had an election in November. The president himself said this was going to be a referendum on his agenda. And the American people were crystal clear about their dislike of this failed agenda from this president. And they've told him, get back to work. Go work with Congress to solve problems. And what's the first response the president has to poke his finger in the eye of the American people who spoke loud and clear to him is to say he's going to disregard what they said. And he's going to ignore the rule of law and, in fact, ignore what our constitutional framework of checks and balances is, and he thinks he could just sit in the Oval Office and write his own laws. And then he comes forward with this proposal to literally disregard enforcement of our nation's immigration laws. This isn't going to stand, Mr. Speaker. This legislation says you can't do that, Mr. President. There is a rule of law. You need to start enforcing that law. We came together as a House just a few months ago and passed a border security bill. Say, let's actually get back to the rule of law and protecting our nation's borders. It's not just an immigration issue. It's a national security issue. And so what is the president's response to this legislation? He threatens a veto. Again, the president thinks he can just sit in the Oval Office and make up his own laws. That's not the way our system of government works, Mr. Speaker. So we bring this legislation forward today to get us back to that rule of law and to remind the president it's time for him to heed the message that millions of Americans across the country set just a few weeks ago and said, you need to start working with Congress and solve real problems. In fact, this weekend in my home state of Louisiana, there are 3 more elections on that ballot. Pay close attention, Mr. President. Pay close attention to yet another referendum on your agenda that's going to occur this Saturday with a Senate election and 2 more House races. The American people want you to get out of the cocoon of the Oval Office and start working with Congress to solve real problems. We've passed legislation to solve those problems. You can try to ignore them, issue veto threats, but it's time for you to roll up your sleeves and get to work with us and solve those problems together. Pull back your executive action. This legislation ensures that happens. I urge approval, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman yields back his time. The chair